The morning sun shined gently over the tall glass building. Its walls sparkled as if they were made of mirrors, reflecting the busy city around it. Cars moved quickly, people hurried with briefcases in their hands, and the air was full of noise and rush. But in the middle of this busy scene stood a young woman holding the hand of her little boy. Her name was Sarah, and today was an important day. She had been waiting for this chance for weeks. A big company had called her for an interview, and she knew how much this opportunity could change her life. Work had been difficult to find, and bills were always waiting. This job could give her stability, a future, and hope. Next to her was her son, Adam, a 4-year-old with curious eyes and a heart full of innocence. His small shoes tapped the ground as he looked up at the tall building. To him, the building seemed like a giant castle reaching into the clouds. "Mommy," Adam asked in his soft voice, "is this where you will work?" Sarah smiled, though her hands trembled slightly. "Maybe, sweetheart. If everything goes well today." Adam's eyes sparkled. "Then I will help you. Don't worry." Sarah's heart warmed, but at the same time, she felt nervous. Children often said things without thinking, and she hoped he would stay quiet inside the office. She kissed his forehead gently and whispered, "You just sit nicely, okay? Mommy will talk to some people, and I'll be right back." Together, they walked through the large glass doors. The air inside felt cool and clean. The floor was shiny, and the sound of shoes clicking against it echoed softly. People walked quickly with papers in their hands, dressed in neat suits. Adam held his mother's hand tighter, looking at everything with wide eyes. At the front desk sat a friendly receptionist. Her smile was warm, and she greeted them politely. "Good morning. How can I help you?" Sarah answered with a polite voice, though her heart was racing. "I'm here for the interview. My name is Sarah Malik." The receptionist nodded and checked her list. "Yes, please have a seat. Someone will call you soon." Sarah thanked her and turned to find a place to sit. But before she could move, Adam let go of her hand and stepped toward the desk. His little voice rang out clearly in the quiet lobby. "I'm here for Mommy's job," he announced proudly. The receptionist blinked in surprise, then burst into soft laughter. The people waiting in the lobby turned to look. Some of them smiled, others chuckled quietly. Adam stood straight, his tiny chest puffed out as if he were very important. Sarah's cheeks turned pink. She quickly reached out for Adam's hand. "Adam, come here," she whispered, embarrassed. But the receptionist leaned forward, her eyes kind. "Oh, really?" she asked with a playful tone. "You're here for your mommy's job?" Adam nodded seriously. "Yes. Mommy works hard every day. She needs this job, so I came to help." The words were simple, but they touched everyone who heard them. There was something so honest, so pure in his little voice that even the people waiting nearby couldn't help but smile warmly. Sarah bit her lip. She felt both proud and worried. Proud, because her son spoke with such innocence and love. Worried, because she didn't know how the company people would see it. She bent down to his level and whispered, "Sweetheart, thank you, but you must let Mommy do this." Adam looked at her with his big eyes and whispered back, "I want them to know you are the best." Sarah's heart ached softly. She hugged him for a moment, holding back her tears. He didn't understand the weight of the situation, but in his own way, he was trying to carry it with her. The receptionist, seeing the tender moment, smiled kindly. "Don't worry," she said gently to Sarah. "He's sweet. He just made my morning brighter." Sarah nodded politely, though her nerves grew stronger. She guided Adam to the waiting chairs. They sat together, and Adam swung his legs back and forth. He watched the shiny elevator doors open and close, amazed by how people disappeared inside and came out again. For Sarah, the minutes felt heavy. She held her resume tightly in her hands, trying to calm her racing heart. But part of her mind kept replaying Adam's little announcement at the desk. She hoped it wouldn't cause trouble. Yet, across the lobby, whispers had already begun. A few employees passing by had overheard the boy's words. They carried the story upstairs, smiling as they shared it. Soon, the simple sentence of a 4-year-old reached higher offices, and it made its way to the very top floor where the CEO worked. Up there, the CEO, a man known for his busy schedule and serious nature, paused when he heard it. His assistant repeated the line, "I'm here for mommy's job." The CEO raised an eyebrow, then let out a quiet chuckle. "Is that so?" he said softly, his eyes thoughtful. It had been a long time since something this small, this innocent, had reached him in the middle of his busy day. Without another word, he closed the file on his desk and stood up. Meanwhile, down in the lobby, Sarah sat nervously, unaware of what was about to happen. Adam leaned against her arm, humming a little tune. To him, this was just another adventure. To Sarah, it was the start of something that could change everything. And somewhere above, the CEO had already stepped into the elevator, curious to meet the little boy who had walked into his building and, without knowing it, touched so many hearts. The lobby of the tall glass building remained busy with footsteps and quiet conversations. People came in and out, carrying folders and laptops, their eyes focused on their own important tasks. Yet, in one corner, a small story had already begun to spread about a little boy who had walked up to the front desk and said he was there for his mommy's job. Sarah sat nervously with Adam by her side. She had tried to keep him quiet, but his small voice had already reached more ears than she realized. She kept glancing at the elevator doors, waiting for her name to be called. Adam, however, was not nervous at all. He swung his legs back and forth from the chair, humming softly and looking around with wide, curious eyes. Every time someone walked past, he gave them a small smile. Some people smiled back, others chuckled softly. His innocence was like a light in the otherwise serious, professional atmosphere. The receptionist, who had first heard his bold words, kept stealing glances at him with amusement. She had seen many people enter the lobby with worried faces, carrying stress and pressure. But this little boy had managed to change the mood with just a single sentence. Sarah leaned toward him and whispered, "Sweetheart, please stay quiet now. Mommy needs to focus." Adam nodded, but a moment later, he asked in a whisper, "Do you think they liked what I said?" Sarah sighed softly, not knowing what to answer. "I think, you made people smile. That's always good." What Sarah didn't know was that her son's words had already traveled far. On the top floor, the CEO himself had heard about it. The CEO, Mr. Harris, was a man who lived in a world of schedules, meetings, and endless responsibilities. He was respected, even admired, but people often described him as serious and distant. Yet when his assistant repeated the words of the little boy, "I'm here for mommy's job," something inside him shifted. He smiled, something he rarely did in the middle of a busy morning. "Which floor is the interview being held?" he asked. "The lobby, sir." "She hasn't been called in yet," the assistant replied. Without another thought, Mr. Harris stood up. He didn't send someone else. He didn't wait for more information. Instead, he stepped into the elevator, curious to see for himself. Back in the lobby, Sarah's heart beat faster when she noticed more employees glancing in her direction. She wondered if something was wrong. She checked her resume again, though she had read it many times already. Then, without warning, the lobby grew quieter. People turned their heads toward the elevator doors as they opened with a soft chime. Out stepped Mr. Harris, the CEO himself. His tall figure and calm presence made the atmosphere change instantly. The staff quickly stood straighter, their voices hushed. Sarah froze. She recognized him from the company's website. She could not understand why someone so important would come down to the lobby. Mr. Harris walked slowly, his eyes scanning the room, until they landed on Adam. The little boy sat swinging his legs, unaware of the attention. But when he looked up and saw the tall man, his face lit up with a smile. Without hesitation, Adam waved. "Hi. Are you here for mommy's job too?" The lobby filled with soft laughter. Even the receptionist covered her mouth to hide her smile. Mr. Harris chuckled, a warm sound that surprised those who worked with him. He walked closer and bent down slightly to meet Adam's eyes. "No, young man," he said kindly. "I think I'm here to hear more about your mommy's job." Adam's eyes grew brighter. "Good. Because she is the best. She works hard every day, and she always makes me pancakes when I'm sad." Sarah's face turned red. She stood quickly, holding Adam's shoulder. "I am so sorry, sir," she said nervously. "He's just a child. Please forgive him for speaking like this." But Mr. Harris shook his head. "Don't be sorry. Children speak the truth more honestly than most adults." The way he said it made Sarah pause. She wasn't sure if this was a good sign or not. Her hands trembled as she held Adam close. Mr. Harris pulled out a chair nearby and sat down, not in his private office, not in a meeting room, but right there in the lobby. His action surprised everyone. People pretended not to stare, but their eyes kept glancing toward the unusual scene. "So," he began gently, looking at Sarah, "you are here for the interview?" Sarah nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." I didn't expect," her voice trailed off, still unsure how to react. "You didn't expect me to come down," Mr. Harris finished for her, smiling faintly. "But when I heard what your son said, I felt I needed to see both of you." Sarah's cheeks warmed again. She wanted to explain, to make sure he didn't misunderstand. "He didn't mean to disturb anyone. He just speaks his heart." "And sometimes," Mr. Harris said, his eyes thoughtful, "that's exactly what we need." Adam leaned forward in his chair. "Mommy is really smart too. She can read me stories and fix the toaster. If she can fix the toaster, she can fix anything here." Everyone around chuckled softly. Sarah covered her face with her hand, half embarrassed, half touched by her son's faith in her. Mr. Harris, however, only smiled wider. For a long time, he had listened to numbers, reports, and polished speeches. But here, in front of him, was a child reminding him of something simple yet powerful: the real reason people worked. They worked not just for money or titles, but for family, for love, for hope. As Sarah sat nervously beside her son, she began to sense that this interview was going to be very different from what she had imagined. And deep inside, Mr. Harris already knew this was not just an ordinary morning in the office. It was the start of a story he would never forget. The lobby was unusually quiet for a busy morning. Employees passing by slowed their steps, stealing glances at the strange but heartwarming scene: the CEO himself sitting on a chair in the lobby, talking to a little boy and his mother. Sarah still felt uneasy. She had prepared for a normal interview, not for a meeting with the head of the whole company. She kept her resume in her hands, holding it tightly, unsure what would happen next. Mr. Harris, however, seemed relaxed. His sharp eyes, often serious in meetings, softened as he looked at Adam. The boy sat straight on his chair, his small legs swinging happily as though he had been waiting for this very moment. "So, young man," Mr. Harris began gently, "you came for your mommy's job?" Adam nodded with confidence. "Yes. Mommy is the best, and she needs this job. I came to help." There was no hesitation in his voice, only pure honesty. The receptionist smiled from her desk. A few people sitting nearby pretended to read their papers but listened carefully, their hearts touched by the boy's innocence. Sarah leaned down, whispering, "Adam, that's enough. Let mommy speak." But Mr. Harris raised a hand softly. "It's all right. I'd like to hear him." Adam's eyes widened. "Really? You want to hear me?" "Yes," Mr. Harris replied, his smile faint but kind. "What do you think your mommy can do?" Adam thought for a moment, his little fingers tapping on the chair. "She can do everything. She makes pancakes when I'm sad. She tells me stories before bed. She makes me laugh when I cry. And she works very hard. Sometimes she looks tired, but she never gives up. She says one day everything will be better." The words, though simple, carried more weight than any professional speech. The lobby grew still, as if everyone had stopped to listen. Sarah's eyes watered, but she quickly blinked back her tears. She had not expected her son to speak so openly. Mr. Harris nodded slowly. His expression softened further, and he turned to Sarah. "Your son speaks with a lot of love. That says something about you." Sarah's voice trembled as she answered, "He doesn't understand the world yet. He just speaks from his heart." "Perhaps that is what makes it powerful," Mr. Harris said thoughtfully. For a moment, silence hung between them. Sarah shifted nervously, feeling as though the interview had begun right there in the lobby, though it was nothing like she had imagined. Mr. Harris leaned back slightly in his chair. "Tell me, Sarah, why do you want to work here?" Sarah swallowed hard. She had rehearsed answers many times, but under his calm gaze, the words that came out were simple and honest. "Because I need to build a stable life for my son. I want him to feel safe, to grow up without fear of tomorrow. I don't want him to see me struggling all the time. I want him to see me standing strong." Her voice cracked slightly, but she held her head high. Mr. Harris studied her carefully. He had listened to countless interviews in his life, people with polished words and perfect resumes. Yet this woman's voice carried something different. It carried truth. Adam, not fully understanding the seriousness of the moment, clapped his little hands. "See? Mommy is the best." Everyone nearby chuckled again, the sound gentle and warm. Sarah blushed, but Mr. Harris smiled. He leaned closer to Adam. "And what would you do if your mommy gets this job?" Adam's answer came instantly. "I will be happy. I will tell everyone my mommy works in a big shiny building. And I will hug her every day when she comes home." The simplicity of the promise struck Mr. Harris. He was a man who had spent years climbing to the top of the business world, surrounded by meetings, contracts, and numbers. Yet here was a child reminding him of what truly mattered: family, love, and the small joys that gave meaning to everything else. For a moment, his own memories stirred. He thought of his own mother, years ago, working long hours and still finding time to care for him. He remembered her tired smile and her gentle words of encouragement. He had almost forgotten those feelings, buried under the weight of success. Now, a little boy sitting before him had brought those memories back. He cleared his throat softly. "Adam," he said kindly, "thank you for helping your mommy today. You reminded me of something very important." Adam tilted his head curiously. "What did I remind you of?" Mr. Harris smiled faintly. "You reminded me why people really work. Not just for money, but for the people they love." Adam grinned proudly, as if he had achieved something grand. Sarah looked at the CEO with surprise. She could not believe he was speaking so gently, so openly, right there in the middle of the lobby. The receptionist whispered to a colleague nearby, "I've never seen him like this before." Mr. Harris stood up slowly. "Sarah, I would like to continue this conversation in my office. But let me say this: you have already shown me more than most interviews ever do." Sarah's heart raced. She didn't know whether to feel relieved or more nervous. She stood too, holding Adam's hand tightly. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. Adam tugged at Mr. Harris's sleeve. "Can I come too?" Mr. Harris chuckled. "Of course. You started this, didn't you?" The elevator doors opened again, and the three of them stepped inside, Sarah with hope and fear in her heart, Adam with joy on his face, and Mr. Harris with a thoughtful smile. The journey upward felt like more than just moving to another floor. It felt like the beginning of something new, something none of them had expected when the day began. And as the elevator rose, Sarah realized this was no ordinary interview. This was a chance to show her strength, her love, and her truth not just to an employer, but to a man who had already begun to see her story through her child's eyes. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and Sarah stepped out with Adam's hand held tightly in hers. Mr. Harris walked just ahead of them, calm and steady, his tall figure guiding the way. The higher floor felt quieter, more serious, with wide glass windows letting in streams of sunlight. Everything looked polished, tables neat, floors shining, people moving quietly in suits. Sarah's heart beat quickly. She had expected to sit across from a manager in a small office, answer formal questions, and leave. Instead, she was now following the CEO himself into his private office. Her mind spun with worry. Was this a good thing? Or had Adam's words caused trouble? She looked down at her little boy. Adam's face was bright, his small steps skipping slightly on the carpet. He seemed completely free of fear. For him, this was an adventure, not an interview. His joy eased her heart a little, but the uncertainty still weighed heavily. Inside, Mr. Harris's office was large but not overwhelming. It had tall windows showing the city outside, a wide wooden desk, and a few chairs placed neatly around it. On one side, there were bookshelves filled with books and framed pictures. "Please, have a seat," Mr. Harris said gently, pointing to the chairs near his desk. Sarah sat down, smoothing her clothes nervously, while Adam climbed onto the chair beside her, his legs too short to touch the ground. He swung them happily, looking around the office with wide, curious eyes. Mr. Harris took his seat behind the desk but leaned forward, resting his hands calmly on the table. His expression was thoughtful, not stern. Yet Sarah still felt uneasy. She wanted to prove herself, to show she was capable, but she feared her son's bold words had taken away her chance. "I want to apologize again, sir," she began quickly, her voice shaking. "My son didn't mean to disturb anyone. He just speaks without thinking sometimes. I hope it didn't cause a bad impression." Mr. Harris raised his hand gently. "Please, don't apologize. Children often speak with the truth adults forget." His words reminded me of something important. Sarah blinked, unsure how to respond. Mr. Harris continued, "But I do understand your worry. You want this opportunity, and you fear that what happened in the lobby might take it away. Is that right?" Sarah lowered her eyes. "Yes. I have been waiting for a chance like this for a long time. I don't want to lose it." Her voice carried not only nervousness but also hidden pain, the quiet struggles she had carried alone. She didn't share details, but her tired eyes spoke louder than words. Adam leaned toward her, whispering loudly, "Don't worry, Mommy. You will win." Sarah gave a weak smile and held his hand, grateful for his innocent encouragement. Mr. Harris looked at the boy, then back at Sarah. "Your son sees strength in you. That's something not every child can say. But tell me, why is this job so important to you?" Sarah took a deep breath. She had practiced professional answers, but at that moment, honesty poured out of her. "Because I want stability. I want my son to grow up safe. I've been working small jobs, running from one place to another, never sure how tomorrow will look. I'm tired of that. I want to give him a better life, one where he doesn't see me worried every night. I want him to be proud of me." Her voice trembled at the last words, and her eyes glistened. She quickly wiped them, embarrassed to show tears. Mr. Harris listened silently. His sharp eyes softened, as though he understood more than she realized. Adam broke the silence with a cheerful tone. See? I told you mommy is the best. She makes pancakes, and she can fix the toaster too. If she can fix the toaster, she can do anything. The serious moment turned lighter. Mr. Harris chuckled softly, and even Sarah smiled despite her nerves. Adam's words, simple as they were, carried a strange kind of truth. Mr. Harris leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. He had interviewed hundreds of candidates over the years. Many spoke of achievements, skills, and successes, but here sat a woman whose strength showed not in polished words but in quiet honesty. He looked out the window for a moment, remembering his own past. His mother had once worked long hours, often returning home exhausted but still managing to smile at him. He had never forgotten that. Looking at Sarah, he saw something similar, a woman fighting silently for her child's future. When he turned back, his expression was gentle. Sarah, you don't need to fear. Your son's words didn't harm your chance. In fact, they reminded me why opportunities like this matter. Sarah's heart skipped. She looked at him with hope and disbelief. You mean? I still have a chance. Mr. Harris nodded. Yes. But more than that, I want to know your story. I want to understand the person behind the resume. Because skills can be learned, but honesty, determination, and love for family, those are qualities that can't be taught. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes again. She squeezed Adam's hand, whispering softly, see, sweetheart. Mommy still has a chance. Adam grinned brightly. I knew it. The tension in Sarah's chest eased for the first time since she entered the building. She realized that perhaps this meeting was not an accident. Perhaps her son's innocent words had opened a door she could not have opened herself. Mr. Harris stood slowly. Let us take a short break. I want you to relax. Later, we will talk more about your skills, but for now, I just wanted to hear from you as a person. Sarah nodded gratefully, her heart lighter than before. As she and Adam sat quietly, she whispered a silent prayer of thanks. She didn't know where this would lead, but she knew one thing: her son had given her courage when she had almost lost it. And though she still worried about the outcome, deep inside, she felt a small spark of hope that something good was about to happen. The office felt quiet, almost too quiet. Sunlight poured in through the tall windows, painting soft lines across the carpet. Sarah sat with her resume still resting in her lap, though she no longer held it tightly. Her son, Adam, sat beside her, swinging his small legs and looking around the office with the excitement of a child who had discovered a new world. Across the desk, Mr. Harris leaned back in his chair, studying them both. His expression was calm, but his eyes carried thoughtfulness. He wasn't looking at Sarah the way a typical employer looked at a candidate. Instead, he looked at her as though he was trying to understand her story. Sarah felt her hands tremble slightly. She had already spoken more from her heart than she ever intended to. Now, sitting here in front of the CEO himself, she wasn't sure what else to say. She wanted to appear strong and capable, not weak or desperate. But the truth had already slipped out in her earlier words, and she wondered if it had been enough. Breaking the silence, Mr. Harris spoke softly, Sarah, most people walk into this office with a list of achievements. They tell me about degrees, projects, and titles. You walked in with honesty, and with a little boy who believes in you more than anything. That, in itself, tells me more than papers ever could. Sarah's heart ached with both relief and worry. She managed a small smile but lowered her gaze. I am grateful you see it that way, sir. But I don't want you to think I lack skills. I have worked in different places, though not always big companies. I've learned how to handle pressure, how to organize, and how to work with people. I just haven't had the chance to show it in a place like this. Mr. Harris nodded slowly. And why do you think that is? Sarah hesitated. Because sometimes life doesn't give us easy paths. I chose to spend most of my time caring for my son when he was younger. I took small jobs, part-time work, anything I could manage while still being there for him. I don't regret it. But it meant my resume doesn't look as strong as others. Her voice softened at the end, almost apologetic. Mr. Harris looked at Adam, who was now leaning over the desk, staring curiously at a pen holder. And yet, he said gently, you raised a boy who speaks of you with pride. That is a success too, though it doesn't appear on paper. Adam looked up with a grin. That's right. Mommy always takes care of me. And I'm big now. I can help her too. Sarah placed her hand on Adam's back, both comforted and embarrassed by his confidence. Sweetheart, this is not about you helping me. Mommy is supposed to help you. But Adam shook his head. We help each other. The words made Mr. Harris smile. He leaned forward, folding his hands on the desk. That is a good way to see the world, Adam. Helping each other. Families are built on that. Sarah felt her throat tighten. She had expected questions about her qualifications, her experience, her skills. Instead, the conversation felt more like a window into her life. And though it frightened her at first, slowly it began to feel comforting. Mr. Harris turned his attention back to Sarah. Tell me, he asked gently, what do you dream for your son? The question caught her by surprise. She paused, her eyes softening as she looked at Adam. I dream that he will grow up happy, with opportunities one never had. I want him to learn, to see the world with hope, not fear. I want him to believe he can reach for anything and not feel limited. Her voice trembled again, but she didn't look away. I don't want him to carry the same struggles I've carried. I want him to walk freely toward his future. For a moment, silence filled the room. Mr. Harris leaned back in his chair, his eyes distant as though he was lost in thought. Adam, not fully understanding the heaviness of the moment, piped up with cheerful innocence. And I want pancakes every Saturday. Mommy makes them the best. The room softened with quiet laughter. Even Sarah chuckled, wiping the corner of her eye quickly. Mr. Harris smiled warmly. That sounds like a good dream too. For the next several minutes, the conversation flowed gently. Mr. Harris didn't ask her about technical details or test her with difficult scenarios. Instead, he asked about her life, how she balanced work and family, what lessons she had learned from challenges, what values mattered most to her. Sarah spoke with quiet honesty. She explained how she had learned patience while raising Adam alone, how she had mastered time management through necessity, and how kindness had always been her guide, even in difficult workplaces. And every so often, Adam would add his own little comments. She makes the best lists, or she can find lost socks like magic. And though they made Sarah blush, they also brought lightness to the room. Mr. Harris listened carefully to every word. His face showed no sign of rushing. He wasn't treating it like a test, but like a story he wanted to hear fully. When Sarah finally grew quiet, unsure if she had said enough, Mr. Harris nodded slowly. Thank you for sharing that with me. It takes courage to speak openly. Many people hide behind polished answers, but you showed me the person you truly are. Sarah breathed out slowly, almost in relief. She hadn't realized how much weight she had been carrying until that moment. Adam leaned against her arm, his small head resting on her shoulder. Mommy, he whispered, I think he likes you. Sarah's lips curved into a soft smile. I hope so, sweetheart. Mr. Harris stood, walking toward the window. He looked out over the city for a long moment, then turned back. His eyes were calm, but his voice carried warmth. Sarah, Today you reminded me that work is not only about skills but about the reasons behind them. I wanted to know who you are, and now I feel I do. We will talk more about the position, but for now, I want you to know something. You've already made a strong impression. Sarah's heart swelled with relief and gratitude. She nodded, unable to find the right words. Adam clapped his little hands. Yay! Mommy is winning. The room filled with gentle laughter once again. And for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt not only hopeful but truly seen. The morning after the unexpected interview, Sarah woke up feeling both nervous and hopeful. The events of yesterday replayed in her mind again and again. She could still see Mr. Harris's calm face, his thoughtful questions, and the way he had listened to her as if her story truly mattered. For years, she had walked into offices where people looked at her only as a resume, never as a person. But this time had been different. It was as if someone had finally paused long enough to see her heart, not just her past jobs. Adam, as always, woke up with his cheerful smile. "Mommy, are we going back to the big office today?" he asked while rubbing his eyes. Sarah brushed his hair with her hand and kissed his forehead. "Not today, sweetheart. We'll wait to hear from them first." "But they liked you," Adam said with certainty. "I know they did." His confidence warmed her. Sarah smiled and whispered, "Let's hope so." That afternoon, her phone rang. The screen showed an unfamiliar number, and Sarah's heart skipped. With a deep breath, she answered. "Hello, Sarah. This is Angela, Mr. Harris's assistant," the gentle voice spoke. Sarah held her breath, her hand gripping the phone tightly. "Mr. Harris asked me to call you. He'd like you to come back to the office tomorrow morning. He said he has something important to discuss." For a moment, Sarah couldn't speak. Her voice trembled when she finally managed a reply. "Yes, of course. Thank you so much." After the call ended, she closed her eyes and let out a shaky laugh of relief. Adam, curious as always, tugged at her sleeve. "What happened, Mommy? What did they say?" Sarah lifted him in her arms, spinning him gently. "We're going back tomorrow." Adam cheered, clapping his little hands. "I told you. You're going to get the job." The next morning, Sarah dressed carefully. She wore her neat navy blouse and pressed trousers, the best she owned. She tied her hair back in a simple style and made sure Adam was dressed smartly too. Though she had arranged for a neighbor to watch him, Adam begged to go along. "Please, Mommy," he pleaded with wide eyes. "I was there the first time. I should be there again. Maybe they'll need me to tell them you're the best." Sarah laughed softly, shaking her head. "I don't think they need convincing, sweetheart." But his determination touched her heart. At last, she agreed to bring him. When they reached the tall building again, Sarah's heart raced just like before. The receptionist recognized them immediately and smiled warmly. "Back again, little man?" she asked Adam. Adam grinned proudly. "Yes. Mommy has to finish her job talk." This time, instead of waiting long, Angela came quickly to escort them upstairs. Sarah held Adam's hand tightly, feeling both anxious and comforted by his small presence beside her. Inside the office, Mr. Harris rose to greet them. His face carried the same calm kindness as before. "Good morning, Sarah." "Good morning, Adam." Adam waved cheerfully. "Hi, Mr. Boss." Mr. Harris chuckled softly and gestured for them to sit. "I'm glad you both came." Sarah's heart pounded. She didn't know what he was about to say. Mr. Harris folded his hands on the desk. "Sarah, I thought about our conversation yesterday. I also spoke with my team. We often look for people with perfect backgrounds, long lists of experiences, and polished skills. But sometimes, What a company truly needs is someone with heart, dedication, and resilience. Those qualities cannot be taught easily, they are lived. He paused, his gaze steady on hers. And you have them. Sarah blinked, hardly daring to believe her ears. Mr. Harris continued. So, I'd like to offer you a position here. It may not be the highest role yet, but it's a start. A steady place, with room to grow. I believe you will prove yourself quickly. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes before she could stop them. She covered her mouth with her hand, whispering, thank you so much. Adam clapped excitedly, bouncing in his chair. See, Mommy. I told you. You got it? Mr. Harris smiled warmly. Adam was right all along. Sarah wiped her tears, trying to steady her voice. I promise I won't disappoint you, sir. I'll give my best every single day. I know you will, Mr. Harris said gently. And remember, we all started somewhere. What matters is not where you begin, but the heart you bring to the work. For a moment, silence filled the room, but it was a silence of peace, not tension. After finalizing a few details with Angela, Sarah and Adam stepped out of the office together. The sunlight streaming through the tall windows seemed brighter than before. Outside, Adam squeezed her hand tightly. Mommy, does this mean we can buy pancakes every Saturday now? Sarah laughed, her heart full of joy. Yes, sweetheart. Pancakes every Saturday and maybe even ice cream sometimes. Adam cheered, running ahead a few steps before turning back to hug her legs tightly. I'm so proud of you, Mommy. Sarah bent down and kissed his forehead, whispering, and I'm so proud of us. That evening, when they returned home, Sarah placed her bag on the table and sat quietly for a moment, letting the relief sink in. For the first time in years, she felt the heavy weight of worry lift from her shoulders. She looked at Adam, who was drawing on a piece of paper. In his picture, he had sketched a tall building with windows, a stick figure of himself, and one of her holding hands. Above them, in big letters, he had written, Mommy's job. Sarah's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of gratitude, not fear. She whispered softly, more to herself than to anyone else, we're going to be okay now. Adam, without looking up from his drawing, said in his sweet, certain voice, we were always okay, Mommy. We just needed them to see it too. The next morning, the city felt brighter to Sarah than it had ever seemed before. The sun rose over the tall buildings, reflecting off glass windows and painting soft golden streaks across the streets. Today was different not because of the city, but because of the hope that had taken root in her heart. Sarah held Adam's hand tightly as they walked toward the building. Her steps were lighter than usual, her chest full of anticipation and calm. She didn't feel the nervousness that had gripped her before. She had been given a chance, a real one, and she was determined not to let it slip away. Adam skipped along beside her, humming a little tune. His innocence had always been her guiding light, reminding her why she worked so hard and why she never gave up. Today, he seemed to hum louder, as if celebrating their new beginning. When they entered the lobby, the receptionist greeted them with a warm smile. Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Adam. Ready for your first day? Sarah smiled back, holding Adam closer. Yes. We are ready. Adam puffed his chest out proudly. I helped Mommy get her job. The receptionist chuckled softly. Well, it looks like you did a great job, young man. Sarah felt a mix of embarrassment and pride, but mostly gratitude. Her little boy had been her strength and, in a way, her ambassador to the world. Upstairs, Mr. Harris greeted them personally. His calm smile made Sarah feel at ease immediately. Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, Adam, he said. I'm glad to see both of you again. Sarah thanked him quietly. She could see that he had already prepared her workspace, and she could feel the sincerity in his voice. This was not just a job, it was an opportunity that came with trust and respect. Adam tugged gently at her sleeve. "Can I stay a little while, Mommy?" Sarah looked at him, torn. She had been worried about bringing him, but now she realized his presence had been a gift, not a distraction. "Of course, sweetheart. Just until Mommy settles in." Adam beamed and ran to a small corner where a few toys had been thoughtfully placed. Sarah watched him, smiling. He was exploring, his curiosity as bright as ever. Mr. Harris led Sarah to her desk, a neat space near a large window. "Sarah, I want you to know something important," he said. "Your skills are valuable, but what truly impressed me was your heart, your patience, and the dedication to your family. Those are qualities we treasure here." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back quickly. "Thank you, sir. I promise I'll give my best every single day." "I know you will," Mr. Harris said. "And remember, you are not alone here. We work together, help each other, and grow together." Sarah nodded. The words felt like more than encouragement, they felt like a new beginning. The first day passed in a blur of introductions, small tasks, and gentle guidance. Sarah felt a mix of excitement and learning, but she also felt welcomed. Her co-workers smiled warmly, appreciating her honest and kind nature. Adam played quietly in his corner, occasionally showing a drawing or telling Sarah a funny story. Every time he looked up at her with pride, her heart filled with joy. He was her little cheerleader, and she couldn't help but feel that the world was kinder than it had seemed yesterday. By lunchtime, Sarah had settled into a rhythm. She poured herself into her work, listening, learning, and contributing. And whenever she glanced at Adam, she felt a quiet reassurance. He was proof that love and innocence could open doors even the tallest buildings couldn't close. At the end of the day, Mr. Harris came by her desk. "Sarah," he said softly, "I want you to know that you have already made an impact. You brought honesty, warmth, and courage into this office. That is more valuable than any report or project." Sarah felt her heart swell. "Thank you, sir. I'm truly grateful." Adam ran up to her, wrapping his small arms around her leg. "Mommy. We did it. You got your job. I'm so proud of you." Sarah knelt down to hug him tightly. "I'm proud of you too, sweetheart. You helped me more than you know." Adam looked up, smiling. "I told you, Mommy. We help each other." Sarah kissed his forehead. "Yes, we do. Always." That evening, as they walked home, the city lights shimmered like stars reflecting on glass. Sarah held Adam's hand, feeling the steady rhythm of hope and love. She thought about the long months of worry and struggle, the sleepless nights, the fear of not being enough. And now, she realized that those moments had led her here to this day, this opportunity, and this feeling of accomplishment. Adam skipped ahead, then turned to look at her with sparkling eyes. "Mommy, can we tell everyone I helped get your job?" Sarah laughed softly. "Yes, sweetheart. But we'll tell them together." And as they walked, the city bustling around them, Sarah felt a quiet certainty. Life was full of challenges, yes, but it was also full of moments like this, moments that reminded her of love, courage, and the simple, powerful strength of family. For the first time in a long while, she didn't just feel relief. She felt a bright, lasting hope. A hope that would grow, day by day, with her son by her side, and with a world that was beginning to see her true worth. Sarah smiled, squeezing Adam's hand gently. "We're ready for this new journey, aren't we?" Adam grinned back. "Yes, Mommy. Together, always." And together, they stepped forward into a future filled with promise, laughter, and love.